They did not fear us, and that single assumption became the most costly misjudgment the galaxy ever recorded. When humanity was first evaluated by the Galactic Council, our species was reduced to behavioral graphs, physiological summaries, and predictive models displayed briefly before beings who had ruled star systems for longer than human civilization had existed. The assessment was clinical and dismissive. No natural weapons capable of penetrating standard armor. No psychic emissions above baseline noise. No hive coordination, no instinctive dominance behavior, no evolutionary specialization for warfare. Our bodies were soft, our bones fragile, our skin easily torn, our lifespans short enough to be considered inefficient. Emotional volatility was highlighted as a weakness, not a strength. The conclusion required no debate. Humans were labeled non-threatening. The classification was stamped, archived, and removed from priority monitoring. No observers were assigned. No long-term projections were updated. No one stopped to consider that the most dangerous forces rarely appear dangerous at first contact. Humanity entered the galactic community so late that many civilizations barely noticed our arrival. While others had already bent gravity to their will, harvested energy from stars, and rewritten their own biology, humans were still struggling to stabilize fusion reactors and prevent internal collapse. Our ships were slow by galactic standards, inefficient, and inelegant. Our weapons lacked refinement and spectacle. We did not arrive with fleets or ultimatums. We requested trade access, research partnerships, and limited transit rights. We learned alien languages with obsessive intensity, studied customs carefully, and followed regulations with uncomfortable precision. We apologized often, even when misunderstandings were not our fault. To the wider galaxy, humans appeared cautious, compliant, and eager to please. At best, we were adaptable labor and useful intermediaries. At worst, we were invisible. No one invests effort in studying what does not inspire fear. Threat assessment across the galaxy followed rigid logic refined over millennia. The Virex Dominion respected raw military output and territorial aggression. The Khazul measured danger by biological lethality and natural weaponry. The Eldari monitored psychic cohesion and mental dominance. Humans ranked near the bottom in every category. No claws. No fangs. No venom. No armored hides. No regenerative tissue. Our bodies failed under environmental stresses that others tolerated effortlessly. We required artificial environments, constant medical intervention, and technological assistance simply to survive beyond our homeworld. The Council concluded that humanity's survival on its planet had been a statistical anomaly rather than evidence of capability. They believed survival proved strength. Humans had learned a harsher truth long before reaching the stars. Survival proves adaptation under pressure. The first indication that this assumption was flawed appeared during the Khazul trade collapse, though most historians dismissed it at the time. A human-operated mining colony on the edge of neutral space failed to meet its extraction quota. The Khazul response followed a protocol refined over centuries: establish a blockade, sever supply lines, wait for starvation, enforce compliance. The method had never failed. Weaker species always broke quickly. Humans did not. For 37 days there was no communication. No distress calls. No negotiations. No surrender. When Khazul forces finally boarded the station, they expected silence and death. Instead, they found humans alive, organized, and watching. The colonists had dismantled their own ships piece by piece, converting engines into emergency generators, hull plating into radiation shielding, and mining lasers into manufacturing and surgical tools. They rerouted life support systems, cultivated food in chemically poisoned substrate, decoded the Khazul language from intercepted transmissions, and mapped the blockade's control architecture without ever announcing their progress. They did not attempt escape. They endured until the blockade became unsustainable, then departed with data, experience, and understanding. The Galactic Council labeled the incident an anomaly. Persistence, they said, as though it were a trivial quirk rather than a survival doctrine. They failed to recognize the pattern forming beneath the surface. Humans did not overpower obstacles. They studied them. They did not dominate threats. They adapted around them. Every failure became information. Every loss became instruction. Where most species relied on evolutionary specialization over millions of years, humans relied on rapid iteration. Fail. Analyze. Adjust. Attempt again. Faster each time. That cycle was not cultural. It was psychological. It had been forged on a planet where predators, disease, weather, and even the environment itself seemed determined to kill them. The true miscalculation occurred during the Virex incursion into a peripheral system allied with humanity. The system was chosen precisely because it appeared undefended. Human fleets withdrew instead of engaging. Observers across the galaxy mocked the retreat. Analysts predicted collapse. Commentators declared humanity exposed as cowards who folded under pressure. Then human communications went dark. For 6 months there were no broadcasts, no diplomatic channels, no threats. When human forces returned, they did not arrive with overwhelming numbers or superior firepower. They arrived with precision. Virex supply lines failed without warning. Fuel depots vanished. Communication relays collapsed under targeted disruption. Fleets maneuvered exactly as doctrine dictated, only to find every movement anticipated and countered. Humans had not matched Virex strength. They had studied Virex behavior, logistics, psychology, and arrogance. The Virex did not lose ships first. They lost predictability. Captured Virex commanders later described the experience with confusion that bordered on fear. Humans, they said, did not fight like warriors or conquerors. They fought like survivors who had already accepted loss as part of existence. There was no concern for honor, tradition, or spectacle. Humans asked only how to end the conflict efficiently and ensure it could never restart. They targeted logistics instead of fleets, morale instead of armor, certainty instead of numbers. Every engagement felt less like a battle and more like a conclusion already written. Victory was not glorious. It was methodical and irreversible. As the conflict ended, the galaxy began to notice a shift that had occurred quietly while everyone was watching the wrong metrics. Humans did not claim territory. They did not demand tribute. They offered stability. Trade routes began rerouting through human-controlled systems because humans honored contracts. Defense planning increasingly relied on human analysts because humans understood escalation and restraint better than most. Diplomatic disputes required human mediation because humans had learned, through centuries of internal conflict, exactly how wars actually ended. Power accumulated invisibly, without ceremony or announcement. The most dangerous power is the kind that does not need to be displayed. By the time the Galactic Council revised humanity's classification from non-threatening to emergent strategic risk, the decision had become irrelevant. Classifications do not halt momentum. Humans had already learned galactic politics, alien psychology, and the value of patience. They did not seek dominance. They sought control of outcomes. They did not conquer the galaxy. They integrated into it so deeply that removing them became impossible without collapse. The galaxy understands now what it failed to see before. Humans were never harmless. They were underestimated. A species that survives without claws, venom, armor, or psychic force does not become weak. It becomes adaptable, patient, and relentless. And when such a species finally learns the rules of the game, it does not need to announce victory. It simply plays until no one else can afford to lose.